Thank you for joining the American Cinematheque online Q&A for Palm Springs. I'm Gwen DeGlees, Deputy Director for the American Cinematheque. I'd like to invite you to visit our website, americancinematheque.com, where you can find the latest information about our program, but also how you can support the American Cinematheque by becoming a member, making a donation. Your support is important. I'd like to thank Hulu for making this conversation possible. The conversation is with actors Andy Samberg, Cristin Milioti, and J.K. Simmons. The moderator is director Phil Lord. Enjoy. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Phil.
What's going on, gang?
Cristin, J.K.
Yo. That's a
That
funny
is a-
trailer. I'm gonna see that movie soon.
Yeah.
You should see it, JK. It's
No, I
solid.
yeah, I will.
Not bad.
I saw that movie and I loved it at the Sundance Film Festival, which I think was the last social event I attended this year.
Yeah.
We were there. I was there with my buddy Chris Miller, who sends his apologies. He's shooting a television show as we speak, very safely in Los Angeles, and so he couldn't be here. They're running a little late, but I'm so psyched to be here, and I love the movie, guys. I guess you didn't think it was going to be as resonant as it wound up being. No.
Not quite as much. No, I will say, like, I miss that Chris isn't here, but this is a nicer frame, the sort of clean 4.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
So much better this way. I mean, he'd be like off to the side, like ruining everything.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to say I'm glad he's not here.
It's very Fab 4, A Hard Day's Night.
Oh my
Everyone's
God.
in their perfect
Yes.
Yeah.
Times Square.
So Andy's Ringo, obviously.
Obviously.
I don't always
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, he's 100%. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So are we in a time loop now? And that's why you knew this was going to be so resonant.
We guessed all of it.
You're such good guests. You're such, yeah, you're really like, you're great.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously the being stuck in quarantine parallel for being stuck in a time loop was just something that happened. I mean, there's so many things now where you can be like, inflate it with the quarantine and the pandemic, and no one had any clue we were ever going to be facing something like this, except for, scientists. But
They have been warning us about this for quite some time.
and like
Yeah.
various movies, your Contagions. But yeah, it's kind of a strange coincidence, and the way the movie got rolled out was very strange. And there was a period of time where we were really sad because it was never going to see theaters. We were really glad we got that Sundance experience because we did get to see it in theaters a few times with a big audience, and it was really fun. So we were bummed about that, but we also were just happy that we were able to put it out at all, and that it seemed to go over pretty well.
These guys are being modest. It was the largest sale in the history of Sundance.
By a significant margin.
Big margin. And it's also one of the movies that I've heard people talk about how they keep coming back to it during this time, because it's easy to make something that's like really artsy and sad. Well, it's not easy, but it is different. And this is, I think, a higher degree of difficulty because it's really interesting. It's really smart. It's about theoretical physics. It's really funny. And it makes you feel weird, oddly hopeful about the world. And I think that it's just this isn't a question, I guess. It's just a compliment.
I'm liking it. Yeah.
Good job. What's it like to be so great? But it really is an incredible achievement that it's a thing that you can watch that's about this time that actually makes you feel better about this time. So bravo to you guys. There are a couple questions from the audience that are trickling in, and we're going to try to alternate. So there are a few questions about the idea of the time loop and how to differentiate it from other movies, and how did it affect how you guys shot the movie, did you shoot it consecutively? How did it affect your performances? Because you're doing the same scene a million times, but obviously with different intentions.
Milioti.
Oh yeah, I'll take this one. I mean, in terms of like shooting the same thing over and over again, I really liked that challenge because it felt like you really had to you had to really keep on your toes, and also it was sort of fun in a mad way to revisit the same thing over and over again. But we were also all very in sync. Like we talked a lot about everything. We knew exactly how to calibrate it. And it weirdly became like some, at least in my opinion, like some sort of like madcap funnery that we were like all, you know.
That's the
like
pull quote on the poster.
That's what I was going to say. It was on the
madcap funnery that we were all like locked in the same location together and doing like slight variations together. But I never was like, oh, this again. Like that's part of the blast of doing a movie like this, and of course like honoring the sort of, to your point, like the real undercurrent that's there, which is a lot of like pain and anxiety and shame and depression and all these things that I think this movie is a beautiful allegory for, either, you know, even despite the sort of like mechanism of a time loop. But I don't know, it was also very fun to be able to like revisit these things with slight differentiations.
That's a good, I like that face after every answer.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
You do that face after every take as well.
I did actually. Well, it's true. We only got like 2 takes a scene, and then each time I'd be like,
I like imagining like Daniel Day-Lewis doing that.
Oh, he does. He totally does.
Yeah.
And I thought that relationship between Niles and Sarah was so interesting in the movie. It obviously takes a lot of twists and turns. One of the things I thought, you guys want to talk about working together? Had you done things together before, and what was it like working those scenes out as performers? One of the things I noticed, you guys are so wonderful at everything, and it was really interesting. Some of those scenes, I felt like, Andy, like sometimes you were like just like getting surprised by something that Cristin did, and I thought it brought out like wonderful performance moments in both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a delight. We had not ever worked together before. We had a couple of mutual friends, and our other producer Becky Slover and I had been kind of low-key business-wise stalking Milioti because we had enjoyed her so much and stuff we were watching. So we were really excited about trying to get her in this. But it's tough. I mean, we knew that the script kind of lives and dies on this. Even though it blends so many different genres, the sort of spine of it is like a rom-com arc, right? For the 2 characters. It's a lot, muddier than a normal one. It's not just a like saccharine hit all the beats, but it's more or less depending on whether or not you buy that these 2 actually would be happier in life if they ended up together. So we wanted to make sure that we did that. So we talked about it a lot as we went, and when there were moments that felt like they were dishonest, we would try and subvert them a little bit. Or, there are definitely moments in the movie where if you think I looked like I was surprised and was, reacting to something in a way that felt real, it's probably because Cristin was trying something unplanned, and I was, and it made for fun moments like that. Yeah. And that's truly one of the most exciting things about doing a movie like this, is getting a little bit loose. And it was interesting. We were able to actually do that, even though we shot on an insanely short schedule. Yeah. And by the way, yeah.
Well, and to piggyback on that, I felt like Andy and I were also like we were like an intellectual step with each other. Like we talked a lot about it. We had like a lot of like rehearsal. We had like a week of rehearsal before we shot where we really discussed things. But then also we really lucked out. I really lucked out with Andy. Like we have very similar, I think, senses of humor and taste. And like, we really, I think it's so wonderful to have a partner like that, where you can just sort of go like balls to the wall and feel like you're always in good hands. And we could surprise each other with things, and we could throw things out there. Like there were so many things in the movie that we like stole at the last minute because they were things that like we'd been talking about and riffing on, and like that's very rare to get to do, even on like a big budget thing, let alone on something where you're running so fast. So yeah, it was I concur, it was a delight.
That's good. No, I like they both kind of both those characters have like they always have the answer, you know, in their daily life, but they don't. But they both with one another they seem to wind up, you know, being put on their heels sometimes and having to be forced out of their normal patterns, which I thought was like an interesting grace note to like the idea of the movie, you know, which is like we get in these ruts and then every once in a while someone comes along and like challenges you to get out of it, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
JK, what made you want to kill Andy so many times?
Well, I mean, look at the guy.
Yeah.
Smug little smart ass, him and his two junior high buddies, you know. Andy and we met on what? I Love You Man, right? Which was low those many years ago. And I'm always happy to find an opportunity to, you know, do some kind of knucklehead Andy Samberg project. And this one was obviously you know, I wasn't, they didn't ask me to rehearse because they knew that I would already have myself together, so I didn't have to. So I wasn't a part of that whole thing. I basically zipped up to the desert up north for like a day and a half, I guess, and knocked out all my stuff and came back home to my wife and kids. So it was really all about not spending too much time at work for me. That was the big draw.
It seems like he's joking, but we did have conversations beforehand where I was trying to sell him on it, and I was like, we got the California rebate. You can stay in LA. Like, all right, fine.
I know, but it's great. It's like to me, what I love about your performance, JK, is you're having so much fun, and it's just like the whole movie. Like you're having so much fun, and then you have this great scene with Andy where that has a lot. That's like a real scene, you know, and really like it's like. It's just you get to use all of your weapons, you know, at once. It's like I'm scared of you, and then like, oh my God, you're the nicest guy ever. I want you to, you know, sell me insurance, and you're hilarious, and you're also really kind, and I just think it's a great showcase for all of the arrows in your quiver.
That scene in Irving is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, I will say.
The Finder,
if I may, but like it's
was also, you know,
so beautiful.
Yeah, and that's why we knew we needed JK, because I knew he was hilarious and that he and I had a comedy relationship, but we also were like, who's gonna nail that scene at the end and bring the like heart of this home? Like the message of the movie is in that scene. It always has been like the linchpin scene of the whole deal.
Well, and that was the scene, as I read the script, you know, already predisposed to want to be involved in it. That was the scene where I went, oh yeah, 100%. Now it's definitely worth doing on, you know, for every reason.
Right.
Plus I got to name the children after my own children. And I have a long-standing tradition now of just trying to embarrass my son, Joe, or Joey, I think in the movie, and less so our daughter, Olivia, but just getting to mention her name and then getting to refer to a little boy watering a pile of dog do as my actual son in life was.
I didn't know that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, he doesn't necessarily concur, but
no, that's a real gift though that you gave to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other moment in it though, you know, where you're talking about you're never going to get to walk Livy down the aisle, it makes it so much more heartbreaking to know, you know.
Yeah, dude.
But maybe he will, you know. Maybe, I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
There will be people gathering around aisles at some point in the future.
God willing. I think it's what I want to ask Andy a little bit about, you know, you guys, you're talking about like the intellectual underpinnings. Obviously, we all know you have a background in theoretical physics, but after that, you know, when I met you, you were, you know, you and your friends were filmmakers
Your
that
high
were
friends.
making yeah, exactly. We're making what I've always admired about you and the Lonely Island work is that it's comedy, but it's really you guys are filmmakers. And when I met you, you were running around making short films and learning how to apply cinema to to like a really funny fart joke. and I think that's always been so great about all of your work is no matter how silly it is, there's always art in it. No matter how artful it is, there's always something fun in it. And that is deceptive because those things, all those wonderful short films you've made, they are hard to make great. And it's been a lot of, I know I've seen you guys in edit suites. I know what you sweat to make those things. I want to talk a little bit about bringing those skills to bear, like producing this movie that's like, maybe we wouldn't have guessed you'd make a Sundance darling back in your apartment off of Fairfax.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a fun project to take on as producers as well. And, on this one, me and Akiva especially really got in the trenches with our director, Max, and the writer, Andy Ciara, and worked through it, not just the production elements, but creatively too, and really went back and forth with them, and it became like a creative collaboration and working towards production. It was really, really exciting and fun, and it was just something that we all immediately clicked into. So I would say, they had a real clear idea already tonally of what they wanted, and we just kind of tried to help them go bigger, add more set pieces, make the ending feel a little more epic, blow a few more things up. Both
Classic
literally
Hollywood
and figuratively. But yeah, I mean, I like you said, we put a lot of effort into things, and obviously with comedy, the goal is to have it feel like there was no effort whatsoever. It just sort of happened and was fun and silly. But I think we did a lot of the same things on this we would have done on anything else, and it just happened to have a few more serious scenes and a few more thoughtful themes, and I'm really pleased that people feel like we pulled it off.
Do you want to talk about Andy's script and how it came to you and how that evolved during the shooting?
Sure. Our screenwriter, Andy Ciara, who we just love, that dude is the best. He had conceived this with the director, Max. They were buddies at AFI together. Young bucks. And we're all about friends working together. So we were like, bring it on, package deal, the buddies hang. And they had sent the script to me, seeing if we wanted to produce and if I wanted to act, and I said yes to both. And kind of what I already said. I mean, we wanted to amp up the Sarah character more. That was one of the adjustments we made. And we wanted to add more like set piece comedy stuff. And we probably made it a little more uplifting, I mean, if you talk to Ciara about it, the original iterations of this were a little more like, leaving Las Vegas or something. And it was a lot darker. But I think what happened was over the course of time, as Andy Ciara's life slowly started feeling happier, the script slowly started getting happier. And then by the time it got to me and to us, it got even a little more happier, but the bones are still in that dark, honest place of hurt and pain and anxiety. So it ended up feeling really layered because of that. And I think Ciara did such a beautiful job of incorporating it all and making it feel like one whole piece.
I think that's right. And I think the forehead slapper I always experience is that it's more spectacular in this world to watch people get along and be nice to each other. It's like one of those things you can't believe how entertaining it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this movie, even though there's people that are at odds, there's so much, cooperation going on between strangers that I think it's really it makes it really special. The other thing I noticed about the movies, first of all, I don't know why you guys don't make it easier on yourselves. It's like a postmodern existential, theoretical physics comedy. And it's like such a high degree of difficulty to like stick the landing on something like that. But I noticed that like, and I watched it with an audience, the audience is with it the whole time. No one's ever confused. Andy, you told me you guys cut a scene where like a theoretical physicist explained everything to everyone. Nobody wanted to hear it, I guess.
Well,
it
Cristin.
wasn't a theoretical physicist.
Cristin was Sarah. It was the character of Sarah.
Yeah.
Explained a lot. And the scene was born of meetings we had with a real scientist, this guy Clifford Johnson, who actually ended up in the movie on her
on the laptop. Yeah.
Yes, he's a lovely guy and obviously brilliant. But we talked to him about like, how could we explain this, and obviously it's something that's never happened for real that we're aware of, but just talking about like the world building of it, the mythology of it, what would be something that if you were a person who did know a little bit about time theory and that kind of stuff, that would make that person's eyes roll out of their head. They'd be like, well, yeah, it's more or less sound, but there's, they're intentionally leaving things out as you have to because they don't exist. So there's suspension of disbelief. And we wrote a very long scene, and Cristin memorized the shit out of it.
2-page monologue about quantum physics.
Do you remember any of it?
I only remember the Cauchy horizon and the 2.5 second window in terms of like kinetic energy, that it was about like the meeting of energy and this black hole and what forms around a black hole, which is called a Cauchy horizon, which can like rip into the time-space continuum. But it was like a 2-page monologue.
Yeah, and knocked it out of the park, gave it the performance of a lifetime. And then when we started screening the movie, we would get to that point and pretty unanimously when we would talk to the people who had watched afterwards, they would say, I get why that's in there, but I'm tracking the emotional story enough that I don't need it. It's just slowing me down in a part where I want the movie to start really moving, and I want to see what happens with Niles and Sarah.
It'll be on the gag reel though, right?
It'll be in the gag.
Yeah. Bloopies.
It's bloopies of just like science. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have many times watched the film Armageddon, and on the Criterion edition of Armageddon, which is a thing that exists, there is a different commentary track, which is just scientists that were consultants on the film watching the movie and saying all the things that didn't make sense and that they that they had complained about during production, but that didn't go their way.
That sounds awesome.
It's really, really fun. They're like, yeah, this we talked about this, but they went another way.
Yeah. Armageddon was the first movie I saw by myself as like a preteen, where I was like, I'm gonna see a movie by myself, Mom and Dad. And then I went to see Armageddon, and like 15 minutes in, I was like, I want to go. There was
Mommy.
Yeah, I like couldn't do it, and
I stayed, and I was changed.
Oh boy, I've watched it so many times.
So many times. The score is so good.
It's so good.
The last act is awesome. And
also, the end, the Bruce Willis noble sack at the end is so dope.
It really is.
Brain melt.
About the Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler of it all.
Yeah, and Bruce Willis.
I guess I was too young.
What's wrong with those guys? They're wonderful.
I don't know. No, I know. I just remember at the time, I don't know, I was maybe like 13 or so. I just was like, oh, what is this? Are we going to Mars or not?
Oh, you're so focused on, you're just an action person. You're like, I don't like this mushy stuff. You made a mushy movie, you turkey. It was so great. The mushy parts worked so well. Nobody wanted to hear about your rocket ships. But I think that's a real testament to like the rigor you guys put into that movie. You did all the work. You did all the work on the script. You guys did all the work on set, and then you worked the movie in edit enough to understand that, when the audience was with you, when they weren't, what they understood, and I think it really shows. And it's deceptive, when you are rushing a movie for Sundance, that that like so much goes, those movies are so delicately crafted, and a comedy in particular, people don't necessarily know how delicately crafted these movies are in order to pull those jokes off and get those laughs to really land. You want to talk, somebody asked in the audience about what it was like watching that movie unfurl at Sundance.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, extra beautiful now, obviously. But like, I remember sitting on the literal edge of my seat at that screening and clutching. I had this like high necked, like sister wife space dress, and clutching the neck of it and watching the audience more than the film. And I remember feeling very viscerally that they were laughing and reacting to the things that I laughed and reacted at when I read it. And I was like, oh, this is very rare. That like the twists and turns that I reacted to whatever a year before reading it, that then a room full of 400 people would have the same reaction. And I remember feeling like just euphoric and like flying. Like it felt like I've done a lot of theater, and it felt, I so often feel that disconnect between like film and television and theater, where you don't understand what the audience, you can't in real time understand what the audience is experiencing. And it was so beautiful to sit there and be like, oh my God, this is feeling like I'm hearing them and feeling them in real time. And yes, obviously, I wish there was more of that right now, obviously. Yeah.
It was super fun.
It was awesome.
Super fun. I'd been to Sundance a few times. I was in a movie that was at Sundance once before, and I had gone, right out of college, just as a fan of movies, and to be there with a movie and to feel it go good, it was incredibly satisfying. I'm not gonna lie. It was just like, this is the Sundance experience I always wanted.
Yeah.
It was just great. Full dream come true.
Yeah. And we hadn't seen each other since the shoot, like a lot of us. And
yeah,
it felt like this beautiful sort of reunion of like, wow, we were shooting all those nights together in the desert, and now here we are in parkas, and like we're high-fiving each other and hugging each other. And it felt so beautiful.
I agree.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, I think that J.K. could make it.
Wasn't invited? That's fucked up, man.
No,
What else
I
we got
was.
for
I
J.K.
was-
though. I feel like he's just sitting here. You got like, national treasure J.K. Simmons.
National treasure. Lord alive. Were you guys were out in like the desert somewhere together in some?
Yeah.
Yeah, just up north, like outside of Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
Kind of, middle of nowhere, but Andy could get there in his car in like 20 minutes because he drives 140 miles an hour.
It was so far. It was like a 2-hour drive every day.
Yeah.
Every night, yeah.
Every night, yeah. There was a lot of night shoots.
Someone in the audience asked like what it was like working in the desert. I know it was like it's crazy that it's like so close to home. that tells you something about where we live. But like, what was it about that environment that, did it influence your, the shoot, like the way you guys felt? Like, it's kind of like a weird limbo space out there.
I mean, I love a location. It was a location for me because I'm New York based. So you could have plopped me in West Hollywood, or you could have plopped me an hour outside of LA, and I would have been like, oh, California, am I right? And I love a location because it really I find focuses you, because I don't have my life there. So I was very like, I'm in the world of the movie for 21 days. And I don't know, but there's also like something that's like a little summer campy about it that I still get very jazzed about, where it's like, oh, we're all like in this desert town together and like eating at the Chipotle together, and like we're gonna work on this movie tomorrow where we have to like do these weird things. It's very like fun.
And yeah, even coming in and out, sort of sporadically as I did, I really got a sense of that kind of, the camaraderie and the summer camp aspect of it. Although it was pretty cold for summer camp there, shooting at night, especially for those people that were wearing Hawaiian shirts and swimming suits.
I dug it. For me, it's like cryo, just keeps you young.
Right.
But you had some real desolate stuff with this, J.K. That whole sequence out on the like the empty road in the middle of the desert. That was one of those days, and there was like sandstorms that we were fighting against a lot of days. It was very deserty.
Yeah, it was very dune. Yeah.
every time we would do a scene, a snake wrangler would have to come and check the location for snakes,
Yeah.
which they would often find. They'd be like, "Oh, baby rattler, extra
Yeah.
venom." Anyway,
When you look on the,
Really?
when you're reading the back of the call sheet and you see snake wrangler,
Yeah.
you reconsider your choices.
What was like the most?
in Indy too? We didn't have like a lot of free money, so if there's a snake wrangler there, there's going to be snakes.
Right, that's a good point. Right,
Yeah, and actually, now that I
independent
think of it,
production.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen the resume of that snake wrangler because, I mean,
There were a
just because
few.
it says he's a snake
There were a
wrangler,
few.
how good was he really?
Well, I remember like one of the first days I like bring my dog to set, and one of the snake wranglers that was in the early part of the shoot was like a very Danny McBride character, and they were like, "You're gonna want to watch out in your craft service. There's a baby rattler and they don't have control over their venom. Your dog would be toast. Anyway, good luck today." Like, it was like, I was like, what? Like,
There's also, there was another woman who was one of the snake wranglers when we were doing the scene, actually right when.
There were multiple snake wranglers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there were
every day
multiple
there was a
snakes.
snake wrangler.
Depending on availability, you get who you get. But
Yeah.
the night scene where we're like hooking up on the rock and then Niles gets shot by Roy with the arrow.
Yeah.
Like they're about to like pull the blankets out for us to be like hooking up on a boulder, and the snake wrangler comes in and kind of goes like, "Yeah, it seems good," and just walks away. We're like, "Wait,
Yeah.
is it okay? It's like pretty dark. You don't want to check more?" Than like, eh.
There was a scorpion in the wedding scene, in one of the wedding nights. Do you remember that? In the night where you were doing your dance, and I'm like on the side with the wine, there was a one of the camera ops saw a scorpion near the camera, and they were like, oh, scorpion, scorpion. And then everyone scattered, and then we lost sight of the scorpion, which is not where you want to end
It
up.
turns out it was the band Scorpions.
Yeah.
They were there. They had been miniaturized.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't bring your friends to set.
Yeah.
Oh, don't, it's such a distraction.
Yeah. We also had these things that we were contending with a lot called mosquito hawks. Do you know those?
No.
Mosquito hawks are like, they're like the size of my hand. They're these giant like things that flap at you late at night in the desert. They're like they're giant
So
mosquitoes.
it's a combination of a mosquito and a hawk.
A hawk. And I remember
Aptly
like,
named.
yes, and I remember doing a lot of those wedding scenes, like freezing, like 30 degree in those like awful maroon bridesmaids dresses, being just like, and what else? And then like one would fly at you, and you'd have to just like reset within the take because we didn't have a lot of takes.
You got to
Also on the gag reel, by the way, along with the metaphysical stuff.
Yeah,
I will
exactly.
say one of the things we finally got to spring for after we sold the movie was a lot of mosquito hawk removal from frames.
Oh,
Is that
that's
It was
great.
like one of the most satisfying moments of the entire experience for me was watching those things get fucking scrubbed out. And it was just like, yeah, go to hell, mosquito hawks.
That's or you could have put more in.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting, Phil.
That's kind of a more yes and approach, Andy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with improvisational comedy.
I also remember shaking a lot. Like there's scenes of that wedding where I remember being in scenes and being like, I don't have control over my body at present. I'm shaking so violently from the cold that like, I don't know how they're going to use it. But you guys figured it out.
Really
That's
did.
good.
We have a few more mosquito hawk questions from the
Oh,
audience.
wow.
Oh, good.
But one of those interesting, like, and I think I'm getting the vibe, which is like, what is your guys' favorite environment to try to keep on set, to like, especially on something where you guys have to move really fast and pull off a lot? Like what keeps it creative and efficient and good?
I mean, yeah.
Well, you go, Andy.
No, I want to know what you guys think.
I was gonna say I have like two. I love so much of what we got to do in this, but there are like two scenes that stick out to me: the campfire and the fight by the side of the road, like right after Sarah kills Roy, where I felt like in such a madcap shoot, everything got like very quiet outside of it, and we were sort of just able to be there as scene partners in a scene and sort of go for broke. And even with the madcap sort of schedule that we were on, it felt like there was like a breath that we all just like locked in, and those are very special scenes in terms of for me, of like the memory of shooting them, of feeling like we really left no stone unturned.
JK?
Yeah, I mean, I really like shooting on that kind of a schedule where there's just, there's no wasted time, and there's also, in that sort of budget range, the really healthy indie budget range, to me, it's the ideal combination of you really have all the elements you need, and you really have good people in every position. You don't have a first AD who's like never been a first, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you also know that everybody's there for the right reasons, and you don't have the studio and everybody breathing down your neck and making decisions based on commerce. You're just everybody's there making the movie and having a good time, and there's just no time to get bored.
Yeah.
You don't have enough time to turn on each other.
Oh, there was time for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh, good.
Yeah, we snuck that in. We
Oh,
squeezed.
cool. No, that you guys said that's great. It wasn't. Yeah, you had enough money to do that. That's nice. Another question from the nice folks here in the audience, and maybe we'll start with JK. Like, how did you find your way into these characters? What did you have, in common with him, and what was your entryway into Roy?
Well, it really was that, that scene that we were talking about earlier, the Irvine scene, that informs, well, hopefully in a very subtle way that we don't see coming, who Roy is, because he's just this weird enigma that, we don't know why he's doing what he's doing, and why I'm still trying not to give spoilers, which is so dumb at this point, but
No, I think it's dumb. I say go. I'm the same way.
yeah, watch the movie.
Yeah.
Theoretically, a lot of people who are watching this have already watched the movie, but
Yeah,
I mean, I'm always looking for a connection, and I'm always looking for where's the love, and clearly, I did not have a lot of love for Andy's character, but getting out that aggression, that anger, that as Andy, as Niles refers to, Sarah says, what does he want? And Niles says, I think he thinks it's revenge, this guy is just this, this sort of Tasmanian devil, always on his ass. But then when we finally get to Irvine and find out why he's gone for long stretches, why he's not stalking Niles and, finding a new way to painfully murder him every day, then it's like, oh, well, that's awesome. We kind of like that guy. And then I get to kill him one more time, which is
Yeah.
but it's like consensual.
yeah. Consensual murder.
That is kind of
That's
beautiful.
the name of the sequel, by the way.
Consensual murder.
Yeah.
That's a spec I've been working on. It's taken. Yeah. How about you other two wonders?
I feel like my way into Sarah was I think that correct me if I don't know, maybe it's a generalization, but I feel like at one point in someone's life we all feel the need to or we all feel the urge to want to escape ourselves. Like if we're going to sit with ourselves for one more minute, we're going to go crazy. And I just sort of, that was like my way into her, was that I was like, this is someone who, regardless of the time loop, is actually so desperate to not be alone with themselves for 1 second and think about their life and what's happened to them or what they've been a part of. And then I sort of went from there. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
For me with Niles, I just was fascinated by the idea of a character who, when you first meet them, you think they actually are really like Zen and have it all figured out. And that's sort of how he presents, with this like laid back, like, I'm cool with whatever, everything is fine. I'm, swimming downstream. But you come to realize that he actually is completely broken and has been broken down so far and given up so much that he doesn't even like exist to himself anymore. And I love the idea of using, maybe the facade of other kinds of characters I played before, as the entry point for him, and then getting to peel that back and show a little bit that inside he is like entirely lost, and then is there a way to build him back up from that place and to allow himself to feel like he can engage with his own life again and accept love and live and exist.
That's great. And I think it reflects, you know, all three of you, that the reason you guys are all great is that you bring so much thoughtfulness to everything that you guys do. And it's, you know, characters who feel empty or who feel you know, distanced from life, like they can be really boring to watch, and none of that was at play here. The way you guys expressed this kind of ennui was so vibrant. You know, it was like it's like by doing the conga, you can express like, you know, whether you think like life is worth living or not. Like, to me, that's like why people make movies, is to find like oblique ways to express these like really common things that we all understand. So
It's a really good band name, by the way, Vibrant Ennui.
Vibrant Ennui is that's actually my second album, a second solo effort. Didn't perform very well, but it's a cult favorite.
Was a critical success.
No, it rang a bell for sure.
It was not a critical success.
It was not a critical success.
No, it's got 0 hay bales on Pitchfork or however they grade.
I was also going to make a Pitchfork joke, and I was like, don't do it.
I don't know. It's not hay bales. It's not how it's done.
I don't
look,
know, but I was going to do
here
something
to
similar. I was going to
this
get
down.
6 forks on Pitchfork. 6 out of 15 forks. Whatever.
And a spoon.
You got a spoon. Oh.
Yeah, you got a spoon.
I don't know what it means, but they listen to it.
But you got it.
Thank you so much, Andy, Cristin, J.K, and Phil, for this really terrific conversation. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
For
Thank you.
audience, if you have not seen the film yet, please watch it. It's available. It's on Hulu. And, you know, for the audience, again, thank you for zooming in and for being with us tonight.